Hello guys, welcome to the AlRasta channel, where I can talk about and explain SwallowedStar episode 185's exciting story. In the previous episode, we saw Luofeng enter the main continent of Yanji and eliminate many foreign race troops. While Luofeng was battling the demon race, he was attacked by a machine race called Tiwei-Ka, who launched 9 million F9 robot puppets. Using his golden-horned behemoth mode, Luofeng actually scared Tiwei-Ka. Not only did Luofeng defeat the puppets, but he also took the defeated robot puppets and put them in his storage space. In the end, Luofeng was trapped in Tiwei-Ka's signature technique, known as the 9 Absolute God Country. It is known that this technique traps opponents and summons 81 robot puppets, equivalent to the level of an immortal king ready to attack. Will Luofeng be able to escape from the 9 Absolute God Country technique? Alright, without further ado, let's dive into the story. When Luofeng was trapped in the Absolute God Country, he now sought to destroy the 9 Absolute God Country formation. Using 1 million tiger beetle insects, the insects combined their strength to form long-range laser shots targeting the pyramid-shaped main ship, which was the source of the 9 Absolute God Country's power. It appears that Tiwei-Ka's situation is dire, as Luofeng is using the insect races to attack while his 81 robotic puppets are running out of energy and are currently recharging. Unable to hold out, Luofeng finally manages to escape from the trap of the 9 Absolute God Country, which Tiwei-Ka had been so proud of. Immediately after exiting the area, Luofeng ordered Arena to deploy 10,000 shadow insects to completely destroy the damaged control system of the pyramid ship. As commanded, the insects appeared on the surface, moved into the enemy ship, and systematically targeted the control room, destroying it. Before the out-of-control pyramid ship plummeted to the ground, Luofeng opened the storage ring and inserted the machine race ship into it. That single loot was of immense value, so Luofeng wouldn't dare to waste it. When the 81 Tiwei-Ka robot puppets were fully charged, Luofeng chose to flee, using the body of the golden-horned monster to fly away from the battlefield. Of course, this made Tiwei-Ka extremely angry. Luofeng had trampled on Tiwei-Ka's pride by destroying the 9 Absolute God Country, which was so highly regarded. Moreover, Luofeng had also taken the token that should have been his. Holding back his emotions, Tiwei-Ka would not let Luofeng escape just like that. Unfortunately, Luofeng's position was now locked, and Tiwei-Ka would return after gathering powerful warriors from the machine race. He vowed to destroy Luofeng and the Silver Wing King, reducing them to ashes. Luofeng, who was continuously moving away at that moment, couldn't be sure whether the enemy was still following him or not. However, since he had seized the enemy's ship and inflicted such heavy losses, Luofeng was certain that the enemy wouldn't let him escape easily. Moreover, the enemy wouldn't give up either, considering that the main continent of Yanji was home to numerous Immortal King warriors. However, if Tiwei-Ka sought help from them, Luofeng's situation would definitely become dangerous. Therefore, in order to avoid being tracked by the enemy, Luofeng would use a method of teleportation. Meanwhile, Tiwei-Ka, who was contacting his comrades to ask for help and promising them a large reward, discovered that the Silver Wing King had disappeared from his radar. His position is now completely out of range of his advanced detectors. Seeing this, Tiwei-Ka grew increasingly furious. He had just been about to launch a counterattack, but his target had vanished. Nevertheless, he vowed to continue targeting Luofeng. This determination was particularly strong when Luofeng returned to the Yanji continent. Luofeng had been teleported far from the main continent using the services of an entity known as the Star Fantasy King. It is known that the woman is an Immortal King level warrior, a specialist in teleportation, guys. Luofeng thanked the beautiful girl for helping him. However, Star Fantasy King was even happier, as she was now able to meet the famous Silver Wing King in person, who was well known among the human race on Misty Sand Island and also earned tens of millions of Hunyuan. That's why Star Fantasy King was very happy to do business with Luofeng. From now on, Luofeng would likely use this teleportation service quite frequently. While a single teleportation was indeed expensive, it was well worth the cost to prevent Luofeng from facing danger. Luofeng thought that the teleportation service provided by the Star Fantasy King was an easy way to make money. One teleportation cost 10 million Hun Yuan, which was almost equal to Hu Yanbo's entire assets. "Don't worry about the cost," said Babata. "Just think about Luofeng's current situation, where he was being hunted by his enemies." After Luofeng left, Siwei Ka issued a challenge to all machine races, stating that they must target the Silver Wing King. This figure, who was at the Immortal King level and belonged to the human race faction, had repeatedly destroyed and seized the machine race's robot puppets, causing immeasurable losses. In the competition, anyone who successfully obtained the Silver Wing King's coordinates would be rewarded with 50 million yuan. The contents of Siwei Ka's mission, which had been spread among the machine race, were successfully obtained by Tai Wo's team through hacking. The mission stated that if they could obtain the position of Silver Wing King, the machine race would receive 50 million yuan as a reward. Yuan is the currency of the machine race, which is equivalent to 25 million Hun Yuan when converted to Hun Yuan. On the other hand, Luofeng also received the news and realized that he would no longer be able to easily reveal the golden-horned behemoth's body on the surface. Babata said that the previous incident occurred because Luofeng's detector was too slow to react. So it would be better for Luofeng to return to base first to buy a more advanced detector so as not to encounter the same problem again. At the same time, Luofeng's heart suddenly began to beat rapidly, triggered by something in the distance. He didn't know what was happening. But one thing was certain. Every cell in Luofeng's body felt as though it were struggling to break free. That feeling was the same as when Luofeng first used the soldier armor and general armor from the Flame God race. Luofeng wondered what it could be that had such a powerful effect on him from such a great distance. It also reacted to the metal plate of the Flame God stored within Luofeng's ring. On the other hand, on a foreign race ship, we are shown two warriors from a foreign race reporting to their leader that 300 million kilometers ahead of them is a human race ship. Inside the ship is only one person, and he is at the World Master level. The leader is surprised that in the extraterritorial battlefield, filled with powerful warriors, there is still a human World Master acting alone. Is it because the human race is one of the four peak races with extensive support? This is completely opposite to this race. They call themselves the Nashi race, who can only continue to train rigorously because they are isolated and forced to collaborate with the demon race. Every day they continue to hide and lurk in the shadows. Meanwhile, the human race, relying on their status as the pinnacle of their species, even walk alone with such arrogance in such a dangerous location. That is why this particular member of the Nashi race swore that he would represent his race to establish an independent and self-sufficient territory on the Yanji continent without the help of any other race. And as a starting point, he will defeat the human race that is currently adventuring alone. Who else could it be but Luofeng, who can also sense the presence of a ship from such a great distance? The ship is turning toward him and accelerating its speed. Based on the ship's approaching speed, Luofeng can immediately tell that they do not have good intentions. Luofeng's detector was completely unresponsive at that moment, meaning the enemy had a more advanced detector than him. This only made it clearer that Luofeng needed to quickly purchase a more advanced detector. In Luofeng's mind, he was still the same as before. All his blood felt like it was boiling. It was as if it was trying to push him to immediately use all his strength to fight his enemy to the death. The blood in Luofeng's body grew hotter, fueling his desire to fight for the treasure that had drawn him there. But the problem was that he still didn't know how strong the approaching enemy was, so Luofeng decided to leave. When the Nashi race arrived at the location, they found no signs of their target and subsequently lost track of them. The leader of the Nashi race vowed not to let their target escape a second time.
达目标位置。
下次就不会再什么好运了。
On the other hand, Luofeng finally used the teleportation service of the Star Fantasy King and returned to the 7th base. Just like the other warriors, Luofeng would first return to the military base, prepare himself, and only take action again after he had made thorough preparations. Upon returning, the first step Luofeng did was sell the loot he had obtained. The pyramid-shaped machine race ship and the robot puppet were extremely valuable. Therefore, Luofeng needed the best connections if he wanted to sell them at a fair price. In the end, Luofeng obtained connections from Master Zhen Yun. Instantly, the loot was sold for 6.1 billion Hun Yuan. All of that was Luofeng's loot from the machine race. Meanwhile, the loot Luofeng obtained from over 1,000 years of war amounted to only around 100 million Hun Yuan. Thus, it could be said that Shiwei Ka was like a walking treasure trove, as he enabled Luofeng to acquire assets worth tens of times more than what he had gained through his 1,000-year adventure in the extraterritorial battlefield. The second step was for Luofeng to use the proceeds from his sales to purchase new detectors. Luofeng purchased one large detector and one small one. There were 2 units in total. The large detector unit was used for long-range detection, while the smaller one was more useful for checking risks at close range. Purchasing the 2 advanced detectors cost Luofeng a total of 3.8 billion Hun Yuan. It was indeed very expensive. However, Luofeng would no longer have to worry about enemies approaching him. Instead, he could act first to anticipate sudden attacks from enemies. The third step was to use the remaining money to buy materials to develop Cloud Contact Vine and purchase the Fire God Origin Crystal. This crystal had an explosive power equivalent to that of the Immortal King when he blew himself up. The crystal would be useful to Luofeng in times of crisis. After making preparations, Luofeng paused briefly in space near the base to deliver the cultivation materials he had previously purchased for his Cloud Contact Vine. As the plant absorbed the materials, Luofeng could hear a woman's voice, which was the voice of the Cloud Contact Vine. The plant was groaning in pain during the absorption process. Meanwhile, Luofeng could only offer encouragement, hoping that the Cloud Contact Vine would survive until the end. When the Cloud Contact Vine blossomed in its newest form, Luofeng could feel the pressure of the origin laws of the universe emanating from the plant. This indicated that the Cloud Contact Vine had successfully broken through to the Immortal level. The Cloud Contact Vine, which could speak, thanked Luofeng for helping it make this breakthrough. Now, the plant could build its own internal world. Luofeng's plants have already reached the Immortal level, and this time, Luofeng doesn't want to be left behind, so he needs to further improve his human body. Long story short, after meditating, Luofeng's body had successfully merged with the 8 blood crystals, making him equal to the rulers of the blood continent. Meanwhile, the golden-horned behemoth's body was like an anomaly because it could merge with 165 blood crystals. This was related to the golden-horned behemoth's body's ability to absorb blood crystals far beyond that of humans. After conducting extensive research, Babata discovered that blood crystals are formed from the blood of fallen beast gods. Only the golden-horned behemoth can absorb such a large number of these crystals, suggesting it may still share a bloodline with the beast god. In other cases, there are also strange tokens such as symbols with carvings on them, which are believed to have been made by the indigenous people of the Yanji continent and stolen by warriors of a foreign race. Luofeng assumes that these symbolic tokens may also be related to a hidden sacred tower on the Yanji continent, a tower that holds many unknown treasures. On another note, there was also a mysterious creature that made Luofeng's blood boil before fleeing from the Nashi race. That was why Luofeng did not want to linger at the human race's base. He was afraid that he would miss out on something valuable appearing on the Yanji continent. Well, it was time for Luofeng to return to the extraterritorial battlefield. Long story short, Luofeng finally returned to the Yanji continent. Upon arriving there, Luofeng could sense his previous enemy targeting him. And this time, Luofeng would be the one to take action first. The presence of the enemy that made Luofeng's blood boil could also be detected by his new detector. It was discovered that the mysterious enemy was 1 billion kilometers ahead of them, and at that moment the enemy was also hunting the human race. In the midst of their pursuit, the 3 foreign races suddenly stopped. They could sense that another race had detected their position. They tried to track the enemy's position back, but unfortunately, their efforts were unsuccessful. They could only detect that their position had been locked by the enemy. Meanwhile, the approaching enemy's position could not be accurately determined. This meant that the enemy's detectors were more advanced than theirs. That was the extent of the influence of detectors in the extraterritorial battlefield. The side with the more advanced detectors would have the advantage, allowing them to plan and act first. After conducting an investigation, Babata did not reveal that the 3 foreign races originated from the Nashi race, which belonged to the demon race faction. It was said that they often acted independently and refused to be under the control of any race. For Luofeng, the independent nature of the Nashi race was indeed commendable. However, they remained enemies that must be eliminated by Luofeng. "If they're carrying treasure, this time it'll be easier to obtain it," said Luofeng with a wicked smile. The 3 foreign races immediately used the flowers to open a domain. This made Luofeng realize that the enemy already knew they were being targeted.
利用植物生命展开领域，他已发现我们的存在。
Thereafter, the leader of the Nashi race group revealed something to Luofeng, raising his voice from a distance. He said that he had summoned his Immortal King-level ally and that he did not want to fight Luofeng. But if they really had to fight, then his powerful ally would come immediately. One of the subordinates of the Nashi race was puzzled. When had their boss summoned an Immortal King ally from their race? Well, of course he was just bluffing, because the strength of the enemy was unknown, so they had no choice but to avoid the battle. At the same time, the enemy detector signals disappeared, causing the Nashi race to think that Luofeng might have surrendered. But on the contrary, Luofeng wasn't fooled, as the Nashi race couldn't detect his presence. Luofeng predicted that there was no way any allies would come to help the Nashi race. He knew it was just a bluff from the enemy, who was currently terrified. In this action, Luofeng once again ordered Irina to command the insect troops to unleash a super maximum combined attack from a distance. When the laser beams were fired, they swept through the small stars in space, and the beams that landed exerted strong pressure on the enemy's flower domain, which served as their protection. After the enemy's domain was destroyed, the enemy used F9 class ships as shields. Is that enough to withstand the super attacks of the insects? Since he felt that the battlefield was not yet completely cleared, Luofeng decided to take matters into his own hands. He reactivated his golden-horned behemoth mode. Will Luofeng be able to defeat his enemies and obtain the treasure he desires? If you're curious, just wait for the next episode, guys. Okay, thank you for watching until the end, and don't forget to support this channel with likes, subscribe, and comments. That's all from me. Bye.